And let's begin by kind of sharing with you a little bit of history of where 222 came from. And so I kind of get razzed about this, even from my own staff sometimes, because 222 is definitely my number. And I absolutely love that number. But listen, it's not about the number. Some people, even just I think yesterday on one of my Facebook posts, made the comment that, oh, Jim is into New Age and Kabbalah and Gematria and numbers and so on and so on. No, 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 no. Sometimes we just need to ask questions to get more clarity when we're not really sure exactly what's going on. So reason why 222 is so important, and you can post this when people make their snide comments, which happens, I understand. And by the way, did you know that you can solve most of all of life's conflicts just by assuming that you're missing information? Did you hear what I just said? You can stop the broadcast, write that down. That phrase will change your life, ladies and gentlemen. Just knowing that you might be missing information in any given scenario when the back of your hairs go up might save you a lot of embarrassment when the information comes. And here is the missing information for those of you out there that do have issues. Monty, nope, it's not Luke 2:22, but it is 2 Timothy 2:2. It's my life verse. It's been my life verse since I've been in high school, since my sophomore year when I gave my life to Christ full on. 2 Timothy 2:2 says, and the things you've heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable men who will also be qualified to teach others. And so 2 Timothy 2:2, that's where the 3 2s come from, the 2 on the second, and then the 2 and the 2. Together, that is 222. And that reminds me every time I see 222, and the Father has done incredible things in my life and giving me God hints, that 2 Timothy 2:2, it reminds me that he's with me and reminds me of my life verse and my life goal. And what is that? To teach others to teach others. And I'll say that verse again. And the things you've heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable men who will also be qualified to teach others. In other words, it's a discipleship verse. It reminds me that this ministry is not about me. It's not about Jim Staley. It's not even about ministry, period. It's about you. It's about teaching you how to teach others so that you can hear what he says and pass it on. It's all about discipleship. That's what 222 is. Matter of fact, one of the most powerful examples of how 222, by the way, Carla, Rizzo, I apologize. We could not, our Spanish translator is out of town this week in Mexico and could not live translate. So I do apologize. This entire broadcast will be broadcast in Espanol pronto, as soon as possible. So as soon as this broadcast is finished, it will be handed over and it will begin the process of being converted and translated into Spanish, I promise. So if you are Latino or Hispanic out there, please forgive us. It will be in Spanish soon, okay? And maybe Isis or one of our Spanish volunteers can put that in the chat room and let people know that. That'd be great. Okay, back to my story. So this was one of the most powerful, before we bring on our first guest, one of our most powerful examples of how the Father has hinted to me that he's with me in 222, and maybe you have your own life verse, was the very first day that I came into prison. When I entered into the prison camp, I got off the bus. I've told this story before, but for those of you who haven't heard it, it is quite amazing. When I got off the bus, I was shackled with my hands and feet, exactly like you see, on TV. You can't hardly walk. And finally, they took the shackles off and they sent me and another gentleman across the street from the medium prison over to the camp, the low-level camp for white-collar offenders and so on and so forth. Didn't even have a fence around it. It was more like a adult daycare facility, I come to find out. But in any case, when I showed up, I was scared out of my mind. I was walking down the hall, and one of the inmates had taken me to the office, what they called the horseshoe, for me to check in. And I was ready to break down. The emotional instability was teetering on traumatic on every level, as you can imagine. And have you ever been at that place where your lip starts to quiver And it's just, if anything else happens, you're going to lose it. And it won't even matter if it's in public. You will just absolutely lose it. I was at that place. I was doing everything I could to hold back, but everything about me was quivering. Even now, I can remember some of those feelings. So I go into the correctional officer's office, and he's beginning to kind of give me some instructions. I don't even remember anything about that moment, but I do remember one thing as he pointed to the door. And as I turned around and looked at the door, I didn't know that I had walked past a whiteboard, and I looked at the whiteboard, and it said the number of inmates that were in the prison as they changed the number as I walked in the door to 222. And I was the 222nd inmate in that camp. And I can tell you, after 4 years of being there, and then a year in Sandstone, it never once again got to 222. I was the highest number, and then it went down from there for the entire time that I was there. And so that was the most powerful example of how the Father prophetically spoke to me. I'm with you. I'm for you. I will never leave you. How many of you out there need to hear that right now, that the Father will never leave you? He will never forsake you. He will absolutely never turn his back on you. Even in a moment where you need a timeout, he's still there. While the world will cast you aside, while the world will say, oh, you're in sin, or you're addicted to this, or you're this, and the world loves to accuse. You know why? Because that is the tree of knowledge of good and evil that is inside of all of us. It is that accusatory characteristic of Hasatan from the very beginning. Hasatan's number one characteristic is he's an accuser of the brethren. So when you find somebody that's online that starts to accuse, or you find yourself starting to accuse even your spouse, maybe your children, maybe someone online, or making that judgment that comes from assumption without all the information, you know what that ends up being? That means that you are exhibiting the characteristic of Hasatan, to put it very, very mildly. So we're not supposed to do that. We are always supposed to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. You know why? Because God himself waits how long? 1,000 years before the great white throne judgment actually happens. And so if he waits to the very end of time before he finally judges Satan and all of mankind, shouldn't we wait at least a little bit longer than the times that we do whenever we make judgments in the ways that we do? We shouldn't. Amen? Can I get a thumbs up from anybody out there if that makes sense to you? Let's make sure that we don't fall into the trap of the accusatory characteristic. All right, so that's what 222 is.